Okay, hello everyone. So in this part, I'm going to talk about how to practice listening. I think this is a part that most of you are very interested in because listening is a part that is more difficult for many students in Taiwan. But you know, listening is really a very, very important part, and you can certainly practice it and improve your listening tremendously. Okay, so now let me tell you the secret, how to practice listening. When you want to practice listening, basically we can separate it into three parts. Pre-listening, while listening, and post-listening. So let's look at each part clearly, okay? So first part, pre-listening. Suppose you want to listen to something. Many students might say, oh, when I listen to something, it's so difficult. You just go, I don't understand anything. Okay? And that's why you might want to do something before you listen to the material. Of course, later I'm going to introduce some materials, some resources to you also. So in the pre-listening part, how come you don't understand when you listen? Pre-listening part, you need to prepare two things. Okay? These two things. First one is related vocabulary, and second one is background knowledge about the topic. Okay? Related vocabulary. For example, suppose you're going to listen to something about Halloween. You know Halloween, right? Halloween, 万圣节. You probably know something about it in Chinese. And so, before you listen to that, you might want to give yourself some background knowledge about Halloween. Then how can you give yourself some background knowledge about it? You can Google it, right? You Google it, you might find some information on Wikipedia, and you know it's October 31st, Halloween, and usually little kids will go trick-or-treating, okay, and they will put on some costumes, okay, and they go trick-or-treating, they knock on the door and say trick-or-treat, okay, and people might give them some candies, and when they put on the costumes, some might be the ghost, some might be a Batman, some might be Snoopy, okay, or like a vampire, or witch, or wizard, okay? And then for adults, on Halloween, they might go to a Halloween party, and it's a costume party, 就是要穿一些特别服装, costume party, okay? And then they might play some interesting games there, okay? So once you check it, and then you can find background knowledge and some related vocabulary. Related vocabulary like what we just mentioned, Halloween, okay, or like costumes, or trick-or-treating, or jack-o'-lantern. Jack-o'-lantern, you know, on Halloween they will use pumpkins, many pumpkins, right? Okay, they will carve the pumpkin and carve some scary face on the pumpkin and put a candle inside. That's a jack-o'-lantern, okay? And then you get to know these things, and then when you move into the next part, while listening part, you're going to find it's much easier. Okay? So that's why, remember last time we talked about CEF and mentioned that if you listen to something that is familiar to you, a familiar topic, then you'll be able to understand more. Okay, then you can make more topics become familiar topics to you by reading and Google it, or searching it on internet and getting more background knowledge and related vocabulary. Okay, so that's the first step you can do, pre-listening. And then we move into the second part, while listening part. Okay, after you get ready, there are many materials that they even prepare the vocabulary or give you some background knowledge for you before you listen. Okay, well, I'll introduce the resources later. And then you can move into the while listening part. While listening part, we have two things also. Two ways to listen. Two ways to listen. And the first way I want to introduce is called top-down processing. Top-down. Top-down. Okay, that means when you listen to something, you try to understand the whole general picture. Okay, you want to understand the main ideas, have a general understanding of the whole thing. You don't listen for every word. And that's the problem. That's how come many students find listening difficult, because they want to listen for every word. Okay? And once there's a word they don't know, they panic. Okay, they panic, and then then they lose the rest of the conversation because they're not listening. Okay, and that's why I put top-down processing first, because this is the skill that most Taiwanese students need to practice more. When you listen, don't care too much about some words you don't know. Under many situations, you can very well guess what they mean if you keep listening. If you keep listening, and you can guess from the context. Okay, but you need to practice that. Otherwise, our old habit is that we want to listen word by word, right? Okay, so top-down processing. And second one, of course, the opposite to top-down is bottom-up, right? Okay, so besides top-down processing, there's the bottom-up processing. Bottom-up processing means that you understand every word, and you want to understand all the grammatical point. And because you understand every word, so you understand this sentence. And because you understand this sentence and that sentence, so you understand this paragraph. And you understand this paragraph, you understand the whole thing. Okay, so that's called bottom-up processing. Both listening, both ways are important, are good. Okay, it's just that here most students emphasize bottom-up processing too much. That's why I want to help you to develop your top-down processing, help you to listen and understand how to listen and understand better, okay? And then after you practice top-down and bottom-up, then you can move on to the next stage. That's post-listening stage, okay? After you do while listening, many times you understand everything, and you can move on to the post-listening stage. What can you do in the post-listening stage? First of all, you can discuss. Okay, after you listen to something, if you have some good friends, I believe you have some good friends, and you can discuss that with your friends. The best thing is that you can get into a small group, okay, a study group, and then you listen to something, then you can discuss. In today's BBC Learning English, 6-Minute English, I listened to this very interesting article, and it's about laughter yoga. Okay, they say that there's a kind of yoga called laughter yoga. You keep laughing, ha ha ha, he he, and then it's going to boost your immune system, something like that. Then you try to use your own words and some phrases you've learned from what you have listened to talk, to discuss. If you have done this second stage while listening very well, then when you move on to the discussion stage, you feel that you really can say something. You have something to talk about because you have picked up some very nice phrases and chunks there. Okay, so you can practice speaking, of course. You listen and then you practice speaking. Sometimes students, because they want to prepare for some tests, okay, so they only practice listening. Listen, 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 and listen, but they never speak. I think it's a pity. Okay, you should practice listening and speaking at the same time. You can certainly do that because after you listen, and many times, you can pick up the chunks very easily, and then you can practice speaking. Okay, and besides speaking, what else can you do? Of course, you can read some more. Okay, for example, if you, as I mentioned, if after you listen to 6-Minute English and they talk about laughter yoga, you can Google laughter yoga, okay, 大笑瑜伽, okay, laughter yoga, and then you can read more about laughter yoga, see how people talk about it, and maybe you can find some very nice websites or even Facebook pages about this laughter yoga, okay, then you can read some more, and then it strengthens your background knowledge again. And in the future, when you hear this topic again, it becomes a familiar topic to you, okay? And the last thing you can do after post-listening is, of course, writing. You can write about it, okay? As I mentioned, after you Google it or search it on some search engine, you might find some very interesting websites, and then you can write about it. You can even write to people who are doing laughter yoga, okay? And then in this way, have you seen that? Practicing, you practice listening, and then you can practice speaking, reading, and writing. 4 skills all together. Okay, that's right. It's not that listening only, no. 4 skills are integrated. You can practice all of them. And then you'll be able to use the language fully. And when next time people talk about laughter yoga, you are an expert. You know a lot. Okay, at least you can, you know something. You can talk about it. Okay, and then it's not just practicing listening only. Okay, you need to listen a lot. And here I give you the brief idea about listening, pre-listening, while listening, and post-listening. But you probably feel that, well, Grace, while listening part, I still don't know how to do that. You mentioned there's top down and bottom up, but what exactly I can do? Okay, that's right, this part, while listening. So now let me tell you the details about how to do while listening. I think this is a very important part, okay? Let me show you how to do while listening part. Let's first of all take a look at top-down processing. As I mentioned, this is the kind of listening that most Taiwanese students don't do. Okay, so let's look at this part. Okay, remember before you do while listening, you have done the pre-listening part, right? So you have already have some background knowledge and the related vocabulary. So at this moment, you can move into this while listening part and you do top-down processing. Always remember, how come it's called top-down processing? That means you only want to know the main ideas. And that's why when you do top-down processing, you listen to the material. Maybe it's a conversation as many times as necessary. Okay, you can listen and repeat, listen and repeat many times. Okay, since you now have background knowledge and some vocabulary already, I believe if you listen to it over and over, you'll be able to catch the main ideas. So you keep listening many times as you like, and you remember to focus on meaning only. Don't worry too much about the words you don't know. Try guessing meaning from context, okay? And listen until you can understand 70 to 80%. Okay, usually if you only listen to it for one time, it's impossible that you can understand very much, unless it's something really simple, okay? And so you need to listen over and over. Don't feel bad if you have to listen many times. It's a very, very nice way to practice listening, okay? Sometimes my students might come to me and say, oh, Grace, I feel very depressed. My listening is so poor, it's so terrible. I listen to it and I don't understand anything. And I ask him, how many times did you listen to it? He say, about 3 times. I said, no, you can listen as many times as you like. 3次不够，那就多听几遍没关系啊，listen to it. Okay, so until you can understand 70 to 80%, what do? Very important step, you check the script. 你要去看原文，所以呢，在你刚开始练习听力的阶段，请你用的材料一定是有 script， 有原稿的，有 text 的，你才能够 check 说你听的到底是不是正确的，你才能够真正知道你听懂了多少。所以很多同学会说，我可不可以听 ICRT 练听力？当然很好但是呢 ICRT 以后我也会介绍它的 news， 其实你也可以请他寄那个 script 寄 script 到你自己的 email 信箱。You have to check the script, or you have to read the news to get some background knowledge so that you can understand something. But at this stage, 在刚开始练的阶段 it's better that the material you use has the script. Then you can check it. Okay, check the script. So that's how you do top-down processing. Okay, top-down processing, again, listen as many times as necessary, as many times as you like. Okay, and don't worry too much about the words you don't know. Try focus on the meaning. Focus on the meaning, get the main idea, and then until you can understand 70 to 80%, then you check the script. Okay? Then after you check the script, what do? After you check the script, you move into this button-up processing stage. Okay? Now you check the script. Then you understand. This is the thing I don't understand. Okay, this is the thing. Oh, no wonder I I didn't understand that because I didn't even know this word, okay? Or something like that. Or I didn't understand because they link words together. 很多字连音很多通常是连音造成我们听不懂。Stick it out 听起来像一个字，其实是 stick it out, right? But when they speak, they never say stick it out. They'll say stick it out, okay? So you're going to, when you check the script, you'll find out what's the problem. Or what was the problem? How come you couldn't understand completely? Then you'll be able to find out some very nice meaningful chunks. Meaningful chunks. What are meaningful chunks? Okay? Chunks means a large piece of something, right? A chunk. So meaningful chunks means some words that are usually together. Okay? Words they're together because native speakers use it that way. Okay, what does that mean? That means meaningful chunks can be a phrase. 可能是一个片语。比如说 take a look at something. Take a look at something. In the middle of something, in the middle of the night. Okay? It can be a chunk, right? But a chunk can be a sentence. Can be a sentence. For example, you say, I'm too tired to do anything about it. It's a sentence. I'm too tired to do anything about it. 已经觉得太不想做了，因为已经做太多遍了，已经告诉他好多遍，他还是不改。I'm too tired to do anything about it. Okay? Too tired to do anything about it. It's a sentence, but it's a chunk. Okay? Because it's something native speakers use all the time. Okay? Or a chunk can be a conversation, a short dialogue. Okay? 这个 chunk 它可能更延伸，就是一个制式的一个惯用语。For example, before a longer vacation, your friends might ask you, hey, summer vacation's coming. Any plan for that? Do you have any plan for that? What do you plan to do? Okay. What are you going to do? Okay. Okay, so things like that. These are chunks, meaningful chunks. 也就是说 chunks 就是让 native speakers 听起来觉得你讲得很道地的东西。中文也有啊，譬如说 your friends invite you to his home and he cooks for you. 然后你看到哇满桌的好菜，你就说哇今天的怎么做那么丰盛啊？感谢你做这么丰盛的大餐请我。丰盛的 How come you don't say 丰富的 Can I say 丰富的大餐？哇好丰富哦。Or do you say 哇好丰盛哦？ Which one would you say? 丰盛 is better, right? How come 丰盛 is better? Can you say 丰富? Suppose you have a foreign friend and he asked you, how come I can't say 丰富? You say, well, I don't know, but 丰盛 sounds better, right? Okay? How come 丰盛 sounds better? Because it's a meaningful chunk in our language. Okay? So the same, meaningful chunks. Very important thing in speaking. So now I'm telling you one more speaking skill. Besides in other words skill, from now on, whenever you learn new thing, don't learn one single vocabulary item. 不要再学一个单字了。单字 you'll never be able to use it in your speaking or in your writing because you only memorize it for a test. And then after the test, you forget it. Okay? Then you waste your time memorizing that word because you'll never be able to use it in the future, right? Okay? So from now on, don't memorize one single vocabulary item. Remember its chunk. 记得那个它出现的那个 chunk. Okay? Then when you use it, wow, sounds very, very nice. Okay? And sounds so native-like. Meaningful chunks. Okay? So after you finish top-down processing and you check the script, the thing you want to do is because you want to learn more meaningful chunks. Meaningful chunks. When you read through the script and you listen at the same time, you'll see, I don't understand this because it's a meaningful chunk. For example, like, do you use GPS? GPS. Okay, when you drive, you might use GPS, right? And BBC Learning English, 6-minute English part, once they introduced this called satellite navigation system. Satellite navigation system. Okay, first time you hear it, you might feel kind of strange. You don't understand it. And they even call it SatNav. Okay, SatNav. Satellite Navigation System. So it's SatNav. Okay? Well, what is SatNav? What is Satellite Navigation System? And then you listen to the 6-minute English, then you understand, that's GPS. Satellite, 卫星嘛 Navigation, 导航 System, 系统卫星导航系统就是 GPS 所以如果用中文讲卫星导航系统你很顺，因为 it's a chunk to you， 你不会把它拆成卫星想一想，导航想一想，系统想一想，然后再连在一起想一想GPS no, because it's our native language, we understand it right away. And in English, when you first hear satellite navigation system, it just goes over your head and you don't understand anything, right? Okay, because it's not a chunk to you. Okay, and then after you listen to that 6-minute English and you check the script and you see this and then you practice speaking. Okay, so that's why second step, after you learn the chunk, right, you need to listen again. Okay, last time you listen, when you do top-down processing, you listen but at that time you haven't read the script. Now you've read the script, you know exactly what they're talking about. And then this time you listen, still listen. Okay, you do the second kind of listening, button-up listening. You want to understand every word, you want to listen for every word. Okay, you make sure you understand everything. Okay, and then you can even speak along. 跟着念啊，跟着说。譬如说你已经查出来知道原来那时候我听不懂的是 Satellite Navigation System，而且他们在口语里面还叫它 SatNav。OK， 那你现在已经听懂了，然后你又知道这个词了，看过了，然后你又 listen as many times as necessary. Now you can speak along. Satellite Navigation System, Satellite Navigation System. And next time when you hear people say it, Satellite Navigation System, you get it right away. Because it's here already. Okay, it's very different from you just memorize vocabulary items from the vocabulary book. 我们很多同学都说，那我要不要买一本智慧的书，一直背那个智慧？那也是一种方法。如果那个智慧书上有提供例句，而且有告诉你发音，甚至它有提供 MP3，然后你有听，那也是一个方法。But to tell the truth, that kind of way is usually you get bored. Okay, because a lot of words, right? Unless you're very, very, you're highly motivated. Okay, otherwise, I think this kind of way, you learn vocabulary items, you learn chunks from the text. Okay, from the context, it's more interesting, and you remember it better. Okay, and that's why you need to give yourself more chunks. Then you, when you hear something, it means something to you. It means something to you. Okay, 所以就好像 one more example， 在台湾 we all know 故宫博物院 right？ 故宫博物院这几个字你绝对不会拆开来一个一个去想。It's a term, it's a chunk. 故宫博物院 Okay, and do you know there's a very famous museum in New York? It's called the Metropolitan Museum of Art. Okay, the Metropolitan Museum of Art. 大都会博物馆 Okay, of course you know 大都会博物馆 but when you hear Metropolitan Museum of Art, does it ring a bell to you? Okay, you need to make it become your chunk. 所以你记的时候你不是会拆开记说 Metropolitan Museum Art. No, it's a chunk together. Metropolitan Museum of Art, Metropolitan Museum of Art. And you say it also. Then it's here. Then it's with you. Okay, and when people say it, you remember it. You understand it right away. Okay, so this is how you practice your listening. Wow, I've told you the secret. Okay, so this top-down processing, bottom-up processing, you can use the material to do that. Remember top-down processing first because this is the way we seldom practice. Okay, you focus on the meaning and listen until you understand 70% and then check the script. And after you check the script, you try to learn as many chunks as possible, and you listen again, and you speak along. Okay? After you speak along means 他说什么你就跟着说什么。这个叫 speak along. 甚至你还可以再往下，还有一个步骤 summarize what you have heard. Summarize. Okay? Summarize it. Summarize means you talk to yourself and summarize the story. Okay, for example, laughter yoga on 6-Minute English. Then you say, oh, in this week's 6-Minute English, they talk about laughter yoga. And they interview a BBC reporter who went to India and joined a laughter yoga class. And this guy said that it's really interesting. It's really a very interesting activity, and it really worked. Many people might feel that it's very embarrassing to just start laughing out of no reason. But the reporter mentioned that once you started to laugh, you just couldn't control yourself, and you just keep laughing and laughing, and then it really boosts up your immune system. Something like that. 所以你读过以后，你就自己讲给自己听，或者是 if you have good friend, then you tell your friend. Okay, tell your friend, you know, I read this 6-Minute English, I listened to that, and then they talk about laughter yoga, and then you can say that. Okay? Summarizing it is even better than speaking alone. I should say it's one more step further. Okay? Because you speak alone and you're still trying to copy whatever they say. But once you summarize it, you have to think. And you don't memorize everything, of course. So you have to use, in other words, skill sometimes. You have to paraphrase it. Paraphrase means, in other words, use your own words and retell the story. Okay? After you do that, I guarantee you will never forget the chunks you learn in this news or in this material. Really, really nice. You got to try it. Okay? So, listening, how to practice listening. This is how to practice listening. Okay? We're going to take a break, and later we're going to look at some very nice listening materials you can use to practice your listening. Okay? Let's take a break now. Thank you.